She was just another waitress in a bustling café, unnoticed by the world's elite until one billionaire's cold rejection led to an unexpected twist. What seemed like a simple snub turned into an extraordinary opportunity, setting the stage for a journey that would transform not just one life, but the future of countless children. This is the story of how a single moment of rejection became the catalyst for a dream that changed everything. It was a typical Tuesday morning in Manhattan, the kind of day where the city was alive with its usual energy. The streets were bustling, and the cafe on the corner was no different. Inside, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, and the sound of chatter mixed with the rhythmic hiss of the espresso machine. It was an ordinary day for Sarah, who had been working at this cafe for over 3 years now. The cafe was a popular spot for both locals and tourists, and Sarah had gotten used to serving all sorts of people, from the hurried businessman grabbing his morning coffee to the regulars who came in for their daily fix. But today felt different. There was a palpable excitement in the air, a sense that something important was about to happen. Maybe it was the news she had received just that morning that her scholarship to pursue a degree in education had been accepted. After years of hard work and determination, her dream of becoming an educator was finally within reach. Sarah had always known that teaching was her calling. She wanted to open a school, a place where children from disadvantaged backgrounds could receive a high-quality education, something she had never had access to growing up. But for now, she was still working at the cafe, earning the money she needed to support her dreams. Her thoughts were interrupted by the entrance of a familiar face. Donovan Blackstone, the billionaire CEO of one of the most successful tech companies in the world, walked into the cafe. Sarah had seen him here before. He was a regular, always sitting in the same corner booth, sipping his coffee while reading through emails or making business calls. He was a man who exuded power and influence, and his presence always seemed to command attention. His sharp features and piercing blue eyes made him a striking figure. But it wasn't just his appearance that made him stand out. It was his reputation. Blackstone was known for being cold, calculating, and somewhat aloof. He wasn't the type of person who made small talk with the staff, nor did he show much interest in the people around him. He was the kind of person who preferred to keep to himself, buried in his work. As Sarah approached his table with his usual order black coffee, no sugar, no cream, she felt a mix of nervousness and excitement. It wasn't that she was intimidated by him. It was just that there was something about Blackstone that made her feel small, almost invisible. She had served him countless times before, but today there was a sense of anticipation. Maybe it was because of her scholarship, or maybe it was because she had just received the news that she had been accepted into a prestigious university. Whatever the reason, she couldn't shake the feeling that something significant was about to happen. She set the cup of coffee down in front of him, her hands slightly trembling as she did. "Here you go, Mr. Blackstone. Your coffee," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. But Blackstone didn't look up. He didn't acknowledge her presence in any way, his eyes glued to the screen of his phone as he scrolled through emails or business reports. It wasn't unusual for him to be absorbed in his work, but Sarah couldn't help but feel a bit disappointed. She had hoped for a simple, polite exchange, maybe even a smile or a brief acknowledgement, but nothing came. She waited for a moment, hoping he would say something, anything, but he remained silent, his attention still fixed on his phone. Sarah stood there, unsure of what to do. Should she walk away? Should she try to engage him in conversation? It felt awkward standing there, waiting for him to notice her, but the longer she stood there, the more it became apparent that he wasn't going to. Feeling self-conscious, Sarah made a decision. She extended her hand toward him, offering him a friendly handshake. It was a gesture she had made countless times with customers, something simple, something polite. But as she stood there, her hand extended toward him, Blackstone never once looked up. The seconds dragged on, and the awkwardness between them grew. His eyes remained fixed on his phone, and Sarah's hand lingered in the air, unsure whether to pull it back or to leave it there in the hope that he might acknowledge her. But nothing happened. He didn't look at her. He didn't speak. He didn't offer his hand. It was as if she wasn't even there. And then, finally, after what felt like an eternity, she pulled her hand back, her face flushed with embarrassment, her heart racing as she quickly turned and walked away. She had been rejected, not in an overt or dramatic way, but in the quietest, most dismissive manner. It was as though she didn't exist in his world. She wasn't important enough to be acknowledged, not even for a simple handshake. As Sarah made her way back to the counter, she couldn't help but feel a sting of humiliation. It wasn't the rejection itself that hurt, but the way it made her feel insignificant. She had dealt with difficult customers before, people who were rude, demanding, or even disrespectful, but this was different. There was something about Blackstone's coldness that made her question her own worth. She had never been a person who craved attention, but in that moment, she couldn't help but feel invisible. She tried to shake off the feeling. After all, it wasn't the first time she had been dismissed by someone of his stature. She had grown used to it over the years. But something about the encounter stuck with her. Maybe it was because, despite his wealth and power, Blackstone seemed like just another person who was too wrapped up in his own world to notice the people around him. Or maybe it was because, deep down, she had expected more from him. She had expected to be seen, to be acknowledged, not because she was anything special, but because she deserved basic human decency. As the day wore on, Sarah tried to focus on her work, but her mind kept drifting back to that moment. She found herself replaying it over and over in her head. What had she done wrong? Why hadn't he shaken her hand? Was it because she was just a waitress, someone beneath his notice? Or was it simply because he didn't care? Whatever the reason, the encounter left a mark on her. It wasn't just the rejection itself, but the realization that no matter how hard she worked or how much she accomplished, she would always be seen as just another face in the crowd, someone who didn't matter. And yet, as she continued to serve coffee to the café's other patrons, Sarah held on to one thing, her dream. She wasn't just a waitress. She was someone with aspirations, with a vision for her future. She wanted to build something that mattered, and she wouldn't let anyone, not even someone like Donovan Blackstone, stand in the way of that dream. Days passed, and the café became just another blur of coffee orders, clinking dishes, and quiet conversations. Sarah tried her best to shake off the humiliation of her encounter with Donovan Blackstone, but the sting of his rejection lingered. It wasn't that she had let it define her. It was just that the way he had treated her seemed to symbolize everything wrong with the world. The way the powerful and influential often overlooked those beneath them. Yet, amidst her frustration, Sarah found solace in something deeper. Her scholarship was confirmed. Her dream of pursuing a career in education was now within reach, and she was determined to focus on that future. The thought of one day opening her own school, a place where children from all walks of life could get a quality education, was enough to keep her going. She wouldn't allow herself to be bogged down by one man's coldness. However, life, as it often does, had a way of surprising her when she least expected it. A few weeks after the incident with Blackstone, Sarah's phone buzzed. It was an unfamiliar number. Curious, she answered it without hesitation, still unaware of the twist of fate that was about to unfold. "Hello, is this Sarah?" came the deep voice on the other end. It was strong, confident, and surprisingly warm. "Yes, this is Sarah," she responded cautiously, wondering who could be calling her. "This is Donovan Blackstone," the voice continued, sending a shock through her body. Blackstone, the very man who had ignored her just weeks ago, was now on the phone with her. Her breath caught in her throat, and for a moment she didn't know how to respond. Should she be angry? Should she be wary? After all this was the man who had practically dismissed her without a second thought. But somehow, as his voice came through the phone, Sarah found herself intrigued. "I realize we didn't exactly have the best interaction the last time we met," Blackstone continued, his tone more personal than she had expected. "And for that, I want to apologize. I wasn't in the best frame of mind that day. I didn't mean to be rude." Sarah was taken aback. An apology from Donovan Blackstone. She didn't know how to process it. That's very kind of you, Mr. Blackstone," she replied, still unsure of how to handle the situation. But Blackstone wasn't finished. "I've been following your progress, Sarah," he continued. "I've read about your scholarship, your aspirations. I've looked into your background, and I want to tell you something. I think what you're doing is incredible. You've worked so hard to get where you are, and you've managed to achieve so much in a world that often overlooks people like you. I want to help you make your dream a reality." Sarah's mind was racing. What was he talking about? He had dismissed her so effortlessly just weeks ago, and now he was saying he wanted to help her. It felt surreal. "I'm listening," she said cautiously, unsure of what he was offering. "I'd like to offer you something," Blackstone said. "I've been thinking about your dream of opening a school. I know you've worked hard to get where you are, and I believe you have the potential to make a real difference in the world of education. What if I helped fund your school? What if I created a charity in your name, dedicated to supporting the education of children from disadvantaged backgrounds?" Sarah was speechless. Her heart raced, and her mind struggled to comprehend what he was saying. A charity for her dream. Could this really be happening? I don't know what to say," Sarah stammered. This is unbelievable." "You don't need to say anything yet," Blackstone responded. "I just want you to know that I believe in your vision. I think your dream is worth supporting. And if you're willing, I'd like to help you make it happen." For a few seconds, there was only silence on the phone. Sarah was processing what he had said. She had never imagined that someone like Blackstone, someone who had dismissed her so coldly, would turn around and offer her such an incredible opportunity. She had always believed in herself, but this was more than she had ever hoped for. I would be honored," she finally said, her voice shaking with emotion. "I want to do this. I want to build a school for kids who need it most. I can't thank you enough for this opportunity." "I'm glad to hear that," Blackstone said. "I'll have my team reach out to you soon. We'll discuss the details, but for now, know that I'm committed to helping you." The conversation ended with Blackstone promising to send over the details soon, but Sarah's head was spinning. She had gone from feeling invisible, rejected by a billionaire, to now receiving an offer that could change her life forever. How had this happened? What had changed in Blackstone's heart that had led him to make such an offer? In the days that followed, Sarah's emotions were a mix of disbelief and gratitude. She tried to focus on her scholarship and her upcoming studies, but the news of Blackstone's offer was never far from her mind. She wasn't naive. She knew that people like Blackstone didn't offer help without expecting something in return. But what could he possibly want from her? As she waited for the official details to come through, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder. Her dream was within reach, and it was all thanks to the man who had once brushed her off like she was nothing. But now, it seemed that Donovan Blackstone had become an unlikely ally one who had seen something in her that no one else had. Weeks passed, and Sarah's life was filled with a whirlwind of activity. Her scholarship preparations were in full swing, and she had begun to mentally prepare for the new chapter of her life. But in the background, something extraordinary was happening. Donovan Blackstone's offer, which had initially seemed like a distant dream, was becoming a reality. She had received several calls from Blackstone's team, each one bringing her closer to the moment when she would finally see her dream come true. The first meeting was set for the following week. Blackstone himself wasn't there, but his representatives were professional, meticulous, and, to Sarah's surprise, genuinely interested in her vision. They listened intently as she outlined her plan, a school dedicated to offering free education to children in underprivileged communities, focusing not only on academics but also on life skills that would help them break the cycle of poverty. She spoke with passion and clarity, drawing from her own experiences of growing up in a struggling neighborhood, knowing firsthand the difference a good education could make. It's not just about teaching them how to read and write, Sarah explained. It's about teaching them how to live, how to dream, and how to believe in their potential. The representatives nodded in agreement, scribbling notes on their notepads. "Your vision is inspiring," one of them said. "We're excited to help you make it a reality. Mr. Blackstone is very committed to this project, and we believe this charity will not only benefit children, but also contribute to reshaping the future of education in this country." That's when they told her about the foundation they had set up. The Sarah Education Foundation was official, and its sole mission was to help Sarah's school thrive. The charity would raise funds from Blackstone's network of philanthropists and wealthy donors, but it wasn't just about money, it was about creating a lasting impact. Sarah would have full control over the direction of the school, including curriculum development, teacher recruitment, and operational strategies. "We want this to be your vision, Sarah," the representative added, "but with the resources, you need to bring it to life." It was overwhelming. The magnitude of what was happening hit her all at once. Here she was, sitting in a sleek, glass-walled office in the heart of Manhattan, surrounded by people who believed in her dream, talking about the future of children who had no hope of ever attending a school like the one she envisioned. The next few months were a blur of meetings, paperwork, and phone calls. Sarah worked tirelessly to ensure that every detail of her school was thought out, from the design of the classrooms to the recruitment of passionate teachers. She spoke with educators and child psychologists, consulting them on the best ways to create an environment where children felt safe, supported, and inspired to learn. As the foundation began to gather more support, the financial backing rolled in. Donations flowed from individuals who had been moved by Sarah's story, but most of the funding came from Blackstone's connections. The philanthropists and corporate sponsors that Blackstone had personally reached out to were more than happy to contribute. They didn't just see this as a donation, they saw it as an investment in the future, an opportunity to make a meaningful difference. But Sarah didn't want to stop there. She had always dreamed of creating a school that was more than just a building with desks and chalkboards. She wanted it to be a place where children could develop holistically, where they could learn not only from books, but from life. The curriculum she designed included arts, physical education, financial literacy, and social-emotional learning. She wanted to give students the tools to navigate the world beyond school skills that would help them adapt, thrive, and eventually give back to their communities. But the road wasn't without its challenges. As much as Blackstone and his team had supported her vision, there were moments when she felt the weight of responsibility. This wasn't just her school, it was the future of many children who were depending on her. Every decision mattered. Every lesson plan, every resource. One of the biggest hurdles came when it was time to choose the location for the school. There were many areas that would benefit from a new school, but Sarah wanted to choose a place that would have the greatest impact. After much deliberation, she decided on a location in an underserved neighborhood on the outskirts of the city. It was a tough decision. There were other areas that were in desperate need of resources, but this neighborhood had a deep sense of community, and Sarah knew that the children there would benefit the most from what she had to offer. With the location decided, the next step was to hire the staff. This was something Sarah took extremely seriously. She didn't just want teachers, she wanted people who shared her vision, who were passionate about making a difference in the lives of these children. It took several months, but eventually she assembled a team of dedicated educators, counselors, and support staff who were eager to get started. The day the doors of the school officially opened was one of the proudest moments of Sarah's life. It wasn't just about the school, it was about everything that had led to that moment. The rejection from Blackstone had somehow been the catalyst for something greater. His refusal to acknowledge her had pushed her to prove that she could make a difference on her own, and now she was surrounded by people who believed in her, who believed in the power of education, and who wanted to see this dream succeed. As Sarah stood in front of the school on opening day, surrounded by teachers, parents, and students, she couldn't help but reflect on how far she had come. She had started as a waitress in a café, overlooked and dismissed, and now she was the founder of a school that would change the lives of countless children. And then, as if on cue, she received a text message. It was from Blackstone. "Congratulations, Sarah, I'm proud of what you've accomplished. I know this is just the beginning, and I can't wait to see where you take it." The opening day of the school was a day Sarah would never forget. The sun was shining brightly, and a gentle breeze swept through the trees surrounding the school, adding an extra sense of optimism to the moment. The building stood tall, its modern architecture a stark contrast to the rundown buildings of the neighborhood, yet it seemed to blend perfectly with its surroundings. There were freshly planted flowers along the pathways, and the playground area was filled with colorful equipment, ready to welcome the children who would soon call this place home. As Sarah walked through the doors, she couldn't help but feel a sense of disbelief. There were still so many moments she had imagined in her mind: the laughter of the children, the sound of teachers guiding their students. But now, everything was coming to life. The teachers had already arrived early to prepare for the day ahead, and Sarah could hear their voices as they discussed lesson plans and greeted one another. Their energy was infectious, and it fueled her own excitement. This wasn't just a school, it was a community. It was a place where every single person, from the teachers to the students, would be working together to create something extraordinary. At the front of the school, Sarah stood next to the principal, Mrs. Williams, a seasoned educator who had been chosen for her experience and her passion for working with underprivileged children. Mrs. Williams was already busy overseeing the first group of students who were arriving. all of them smiling with wide eyes as they entered the school for the first time. "Mrs. Williams, how's everything going?" Sarah asked, her voice filled with anticipation. "It's going wonderfully, Sarah," Mrs. Williams replied with a bright smile. "The children are so excited. I can see the potential in them already. This place, it's going to make a difference." Sarah smiled, feeling a wave of relief wash over her. She had spent months preparing for this day, and to hear such positive feedback made it all worth it. Soon, parents began to arrive, many of them nervous but hopeful. They had heard about the school from their neighbors and friends, and for many of them, this was the first opportunity their children had to attend a school of this caliber. Sarah walked around the grounds, greeting parents, thanking them for entrusting their children to her, and reassuring them that they were making the right choice. She knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but seeing the hope in their eyes made her believe that this was the right path. As the bell rang, signaling the start of the first day of classes, Sarah took a step back and watched as the children filed into their classrooms. There were no barriers here, no judgments based on their backgrounds or their circumstances. This was a place of opportunity, a place where children could learn, grow, and dream big. For many of them, it would be the first time they would receive an education that wasn't limited by their zip code or the resources available to them. This was their chance to escape the cycle of poverty, and Sarah knew that she had a role to play in helping them get there. Later that afternoon, Sarah stood in the staff lounge, taking a moment to herself. She watched the teachers laughing and chatting, their energy filling the room with a sense of camaraderie. It was surreal. Everything was falling into place. The school had become a living, breathing entity, and it was everything she had imagined and more. Just then, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Donovan Blackstone. She had been receiving updates from his team periodically, but this message was different. "Sarah," the message began, "I've been following the progress of the school, and I want to congratulate you once again on everything you've accomplished. I know that this is only the beginning, but you've already made an incredible impact. I look forward to seeing how this school grows, and I am proud to be part of this journey with you." The words hit Sarah with a wave of emotion. She had never expected this kind of support from Blackstone, not after the way he had treated her all those weeks ago. Yet, here he was, acknowledging her hard work and offering his continued support. She had come to realize that the rejection she had felt from Blackstone had been a blessing in disguise. It had pushed her to prove herself, to show that she could achieve her dreams on her own. And now, with the school open and thriving, she knew that it wasn't just her success. It was the success of every child who walked through those doors. But Blackstone's involvement wasn't just about the financial support. It was also about the opportunities he could provide in the future. His vast network of connections could help the school grow in ways Sarah hadn't even imagined. She was already thinking about expanding the curriculum, creating partnerships with other educational organizations, and offering scholarships for the most promising students. As the day came to an end, Sarah stood at the school's entrance, watching as the children filed out, their faces filled with excitement as they chatted about what they had learned. She couldn't help but smile. This was what she had always dreamed, a van environment where children could thrive, where they were valued, and where their potential was limitless. It wasn't just a school, it was a community, a place where dreams were nurtured and where the future was shaped by the hands of those who believed in its power. And it was just the beginning. As the school year progressed, Sarah found herself more and more invested in the lives of her students. She knew that the work she was doing was more than just a job, it was her calling. Every day, she watched as her students blossomed, not just in their academic pursuits, but in their confidence and self-worth. These were children who had never been given the opportunity to dream big, to think beyond the limitations of their circumstances. But now, they were beginning to believe that anything was possible. Sarah's vision for the school had always been to create an environment where children could be themselves, where they weren't just numbers on a page, but individuals with unique talents and aspirations. She worked closely with the teachers to ensure that the school's culture was one of inclusivity, encouragement, and growth. Whether it was through the arts, sports, or academic achievement, every child was given a chance to shine. But the school's success wasn't just due to Sarah's hard work. It was also the result of the generous support from Donovan Blackstone. He had kept his promise to help fund the school and had played an active role in ensuring its growth. Blackstone was a man of few words, but his actions spoke volumes. He had provided resources, networking opportunities, and even mentorship for Sarah, helping her navigate the challenges of running a school. Though he rarely visited, his presence was felt in every corner of the school. His belief in Sarah's mission had fueled the entire endeavor, and she would forever be grateful for that. One afternoon, several months after the school had opened, Sarah received a call from Blackstone's team. They informed her that he wanted to meet her. This wasn't unusual. He had reached out a few times to check on the progress of the school, but there was something different about this meeting. When Sarah arrived at the meeting, she found Blackstone sitting in a sleek conference room, his usual air of professionalism surrounding him. But this time, there was something more, an openness that she hadn't seen before. "Sarah, thank you for coming," he said, his voice calm but genuine. "I've been thinking a lot about the school lately, and I wanted to talk to you about the future." "Of course, Mr. Blackstone," Sarah replied, her curiosity piqued. "What's on your mind?" "I've seen what you've done here, and I have to say, I'm impressed," he said, his tone softer than usual. "When I first met you, I wasn't sure what to expect. But what you've accomplished is nothing short of extraordinary. You've built something that's going to change lives for generations to come." Sarah felt a wave of emotion rise in her chest. She had worked so hard to get to this point, and hearing Blackstone's words of praise meant more to her than she could put into words. "I couldn't have done it without your support," she said, her voice thick with gratitude. "You believed in me when no one else did." Blackstone gave her a small smile, something rare for him. "I didn't just believe in you, Sarah. I saw something in you that I hadn't seen in a long time. Someone who was willing to fight for what they believed in, no matter the odds. And that's something I respect." Sarah was taken aback by his words. She had never thought of Blackstone as someone who admired determination or resilience. He was always seen as a calculating businessman, not someone who showed much emotion. But in that moment, she saw him in a different light. He wasn't just a billionaire who funded her dream. He was a man who understood the power of passion and perseverance. "I've been thinking about what we can do next," Blackstone continued, leaning forward in his chair. "You've built a foundation for something incredible here, but I think there's more we can do. I'd like to help you expand the school, perhaps even replicate it in other cities. Your model could serve as an example for what's possible when we invest in education." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. Expand the school, replicate it in other cities. This was beyond anything she had ever imagined. "I don't even know where to start," she admitted, overwhelmed by the possibility. You don't have to start alone, Blackstone replied, his voice steady. I'll help you every step of the way. I have the resources, the network, and the experience to make this happen. But it has to come from you. You're the heart of this project, Sarah. And if anyone can make it work, it's you. Sarah was speechless. The dream she had once thought was impossible was now within reach. She had gone from serving coffee in a café to being the founder of a movement that was changing the landscape of education. And now, with Blackstone's offer to help expand the school, her impact could reach even further. Over the next few months, Sarah worked closely with Blackstone's team to outline a plan for the school's growth. They identified several cities with underserved communities that could benefit from the model Sarah had created. With Blackstone's backing, the Sarah Education Foundation began raising more funds, and soon they were able to establish new schools in these cities. Each new school was built on the same principles that had made the first one so successful, empowering children, providing them with the tools they needed to succeed, and giving them a chance at a brighter future. As the years passed, Sarah's schools multiplied, each one a testament to her hard work, her vision, and the unexpected bond she had formed with Donovan Blackstone. They had become unlikely partners in a mission to change the world, one child at a time. And though their relationship had started with a moment of rejection, it had blossomed into something far greater, a partnership based on mutual respect and a shared desire to make a difference. As Sarah stood before a new group of students, now at the helm of a much larger operation, she couldn't help but reflect on how far she had come. From the cafe to the first school, and now to an entire network of schools, she had proven to herself that anything was possible if she stayed true to her dreams. And in that moment, she knew that the journey was far from over. With continued support and her unwavering determination, the future was limitless.